have moved my filming 90 degrees so my back is to the wall and not my bed where my dog would photobomb me. I am so excited for this video today. I am looking at two eyeshadow palettes that I just bought recently. They are by Juvia's Place and they are the Nubian palette and the Nubian 2 palette. This is more of an indie brand of makeup, but they have gotten some mainstream coverage. I think Nikki Tutorials and Jaclyn Hill have both used and talked about this original Nubian palette, and the company just came out with their Nubian 3 palette, which has gotten a lot of hype. So you may have heard about them, especially recently, and I came across these on Pinterest actually. I was just scrolling through random eyeshadows like I do, and this was just too beautiful. I mean, it's just gorgeous. I have long been looking for a neutral palette that actually has a lot of variety but also isn't too big, just because when I travel or even when I just go somewhere for the weekend, I don't want to be bringing a huge giant eyeshadow palette. Now this palette is by no means travel sized, but it is so thin and it is a lot smaller than my other palettes, so I really do think this will become a sort of travel companion for me. The Nubian 2, on the other hand, is much larger than the Nubian palette, and the eyeshadows are huge, but you also have a few pops of color in there that the original Nubian doesn't have, so I think these will complement each other very nicely. I've had these palettes sitting here for a couple weeks and I have not touched them because I've been waiting to film this video, but I am just so excited to start touching this, so let's move over to the table and I will start doing some swatches. This is as blank as my table is really going to get here, so I am just going to start swatching. We will start with the Nubian 1 palette. Wow, that glittery shade is insane. It's hard to tell from the swatch on my arm, but this first shade has like a pinkish shimmer to it, like an iridescence, which is really pretty. I'm sure built up you'll be able to see it better. Maybe. I hope that's coming across on camera. I don't think it is. Oh, no, possibly. Oh my god. I'm noticing with this palette that these shimmery shades are absolutely stunning, whereas the matte shades are a little more, not really chalky, but just need a lot more building up than the other colors. However, I think on the eyes that might not be the biggest deal, but obviously I will see when I actually use it. Now we'll dive into the Nubian 2 palette. You can see how much bigger these eyeshadows are, and you can see that my camera's making this really awkward. Once again, these shimmering shades are just so gorgeous. This is basically the same as the other palette where the shimmers are all just absolutely gorgeous and stunning, and the matte shades are just a little less exciting. So I have used these eyeshadows on my eyes. I have all the swatches. Oh no, on my arms. This worked on a table. It does not work now. All the swatches are still on my arms and I have a lot of feelings. So just to walk you through what I did on my eyes, I used only the original Nubian palette, so I used this palette and I will zoom you in. I used these two matte shades as a transition shade. I used this very sparkly pale shade as a shimmer on the inner corners of my eyes. I used this middle shade up here on the inner part of my lid. I used this coppery shimmery shade on the outer part of my lid, and then I put the matte brown in the crease and the matte black in the outer corners, and I used this reddish shimmery shade on the bottom lash line. I tried to use as many eyeshadows as possible, and this doesn't look too bad for just playing around. So as I was swatching these eyeshadows, I was saying that I felt like the matte shades were a lot more pale and just took a lot more to build up. So for example, these two first colors on my wrist compared to like this blue or the green. And then for the Nubian palette, it was the same thing. There we go. These shimmery shades are really bright, whereas the matte shades, like up here and down here at the end, and this one right here, were not as pow, I guess, on the first impression. However, when I was putting these on my eyes, it turns out the matte shades do kind of crumble a little bit as you use a brush instead of a finger, and so that made these go on a lot more pigmented than I expected. So even though the first finger swipe swatch wasn't impressive, I feel like actually applying these as eyeshadows with brushes like I normally do kind of fixes that problem. Now these shimmery shades are super easy to pick up with your finger, but with a brush it kind of takes a little bit more work. I wouldn't say you have to like dig into the shadows to get more powder up, but you do have to sort of wiggle your brush in a little bit because the bristles will sort of like disrupt the top layer. Does that make sense? It just takes a little more work for those bristles to pick up the color than with my finger, because with my finger it is just like full pigment right away. The matte shades are just a little more subtle, but these are both still really easy to get full coverage on the eyes, so not a problem to me at all. These eyeshadows don't feel powdery. I didn't get any fallout issues. I feel like they applied really wonderfully, pretty much comparable to all of my high-end eyeshadows. And on a whole, I feel like this palette performs better than a lot of other palettes I have. I have so many palettes where there are like 1 to 4 shades that are just kind of duds, where I don't feel like I can really use my finger or a brush with these. But on this palette, every single shadow I feel like is going to be completely easy to get. You're going to get the color you want, and they're buildable. And I'm just kind of in love with this palette right now. I'm going to keep using these shadows from both palettes, and I will have a full review of these palettes down on my blog. So go to brokeforbeauty.com or look down in the description box for a link to the specific blog post. I hope you enjoyed this first impression. I really want to know, have you tried this brand before? Have you heard of it before? I feel like there's a lot of hype around it, especially with this new palette release that I don't have yet, but I will probably have, let's be honest. But I feel like that's because I already knew of the brand, and so when I heard about it, I was more tuned in. But let me know. And I want to know how you guys like these palettes too, so let me know if you've tried them. Oh, I forgot to mention, like, the most important thing about these palettes is they are basically drugstore pricing. They're really affordable. I will have the prices for these 2 palettes down below. Okay, I feel a bit scatterbrained right now. It has been a long time since I filmed a video, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you liked it and want to see more. And if you're looking for me, you can find me at any of the social media handles you'll see on the end screen or down below in the description box. Or as always, you can find me at brokeforbeauty.com. Thanks again for watching. I am madly in love with my eyeshadow palettes, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.